The soft glow of dawn barely pierced through the thick canopy of pines surrounding my cabin, nestled deep within the unforgiving wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. Here, in this sanctuary of solitude, the world's chaos and clamor faded into the murmur of wind through the trees and the distant call of a lone wolf. My cabin, a testament to countless hunts and solitary nights, was both fortress and haven against the darkness that prowled beyond the light. This morning, however, the tranquility was marred by an unease that twisted in my gut, an all too familiar sensation that preceded the hunt. The source, a cryptic message that lay open on my weathered wooden table, its words scrawled hastily, reeking of fear and desperation. "Ghouls in the Mojave," it read. "Help needed." The stark contrast between my current serene surroundings and the desolate, sun-scorched expanse of the Mojave Desert that awaited me was not lost in the moment. Yet it was the mention of ghouls that quickened my pulse, a new quarry that promised a challenge unlike any I had faced before. Beside the message, my .45 caliber handgun lay disassembled, its parts meticulously arranged for cleaning. The ritual was both practical and meditative, a moment of calm before the storm. Next to it, the silver knife, its blade etched with runes of protection and offense, gleamed under the cabin's dim lighting. Today, I added a new companion to my arsenal, a high-precision sniper rifle, its sleek form a promise of deadly efficiency from afar. In the vast openness of the Mojave, I anticipated its range would offer a crucial advantage, allowing me to strike with lethal precision before the ghouls could ever sense my presence. The preparation was methodical, each weapon cleaned and reassembled with practiced hands. The sniper rifle, unfamiliar yet comforting in its promise, was the last to be stowed in my rugged duffel bag. Clothing, supplies, and the few personal effects I dared to take with me were packed with equal care, the weight of the impending journey settling in with each item. With a final glance around the cabin, I acknowledged the possibility that I might not return. A thought that lingered like the morning fog. The Mojave Desert, with its hidden dangers and mysteries, awaited me, and with it, the ghouls that threatened to spill beyond its borders. Stepping outside, the crisp morning air filled my lungs, the scent of pine and earth a bittersweet farewell. The Mojave welcomed me with its vast silence, a stark canvas stretching under the relentless sun. The small town sitting at its edge was a hodgepodge of weary buildings and hardy souls, a frontier post against the encroaching wilds. Stepping into the local bar, the cool shade was a brief respite from the desert's scorch. This place, worn by time and tales, buzzed with the low murmur of its patrons. They eyed me with that mix of curiosity and suspicion reserved for outsiders who wander into their secluded world. The bartender, a seasoned man whose face told stories of the desert's unforgiving nature, gave me a nod. "Ain't often we see new faces round here. What brings you to this corner of the world?" His voice carried the gravelly timbre of the desert wind, seasoned and rugged. "Ghouls," I said simply, letting the word hang in the air, heavy with implication. The murmur hushed down to whispers, the word ghouls slicing through the room's buzz like a cold draft. The bartender's eyes narrowed, a flicker of understanding passing between us. "You're one of them hunters, ain't ya?" It wasn't a question, but a recognition of the path I tread. A solitary journey against the darkness. Nodding, I leaned in. "I need to know about sightings, patterns, anything that might help me track them down." He considered for a moment, then poured a drink, the liquid amber catching the dim light. "You'll want to talk to Maria." He gestured towards a lone figure in the corner, her gaze distant. "She's seen more than her fair share of night shadows." Approaching Maria, her story unfolded with a hesitant start, gaining momentum as the memories poured out. "Them ghouls been terrorizing the outskirts, snatching folks up. No one's seen hide nor hair of 'em in the daylight. But come night, the air gets thick with 'em." Her dialect, a melodic contrast to the bartender's, carried the lilt of the desert's hidden valleys and secluded streams. a reminder of the diverse tapestry of life that thrived in the Mojave's embrace. As night reclaimed its domain, I stepped out under the moon's watchful eye, armed with tales of shadows and dread. The town, once buzzing with the day's heat, now lay silent, its inhabitants retreating from the dark that crept in from the desert. The Mojave stretched before me, a challenge whispered on the wind. The hunt was on, and I, though a stranger to this land, was no stranger to the darkness that lurked within. The ghouls, with their hunger for chaos and night, were out there, and I was determined to find them, guided by the wisdom of those who had known their terror. The desert, indifferent to the fate of its transient visitors, watched as I ventured forth, a lone figure against the vastness. The night enveloped me, a vast expanse of darkness punctuated only by the stark, cold light of the moon. It cast the desert in a monochrome palette, every rock and crevice thrown into sharp relief, creating a landscape that felt both alien and eerily beautiful. The air was chill, a stark reminder of the desert's capacity for extreme shifts, its daytime heat a mere memory under the blanket of night. Navigating through this terrain required a blend of caution and confidence. Each step was measured, mindful of the natural hazards that lurked alongside the supernatural ones I hunted. The information from Maria had led me here, to the outskirts of an old, seemingly forsaken ranch where recent ghoul activity had been reported. The structures, abandoned and succumbing to the desert's relentless encroachment, stood as silent testaments to human endeavors reclaimed by nature, or, in this case, by the unnatural. As I approached, the stillness of the night was suddenly, violently shattered. A ghoul, its form a grotesque silhouette against the moonlit sand, launched itself towards me with a ferocity that spoke of hunger long unfulfilled. These creatures, neither fully alive nor dead, possessed a speed and strength that belied their decaying visage. The encounter was swift, a blur of motion where instinct and training took precedence over thought. The ghoul's movements were erratic, unpredictable, yet there was a method to its madness, a pattern learned through encounters too numerous to count. It sought to overwhelm, to use its physicality as both weapon and shield, but I was prepared. The battle, if it could be called that, was intense and brief. The ghoul's advantage lay in its ability to surprise, to strike from the shadows with lethal intent. But this was my realm too, a world of shadow and light where I had honed my skills. The creature's assault was met with resistance, a dance of death played out under the watchful gaze of the moon. With the ghoul dispatched, its threat neutralized, the silence returned. But it was a different quiet now. A quiet that spoke of a battle won, but a war far from over. The ranch, with its secrets and shadows, seemed to watch me, the weight of its history a heavy presence in the night. The encounter had been a test, a measure of the threat these ghouls posed to the town and its denizens. It was clear that they were growing bolder, their attacks more frequent and deadly. The reasons for this escalation remained shrouded in mystery, a puzzle that demanded solving if more bloodshed was to be avoided. As I moved away from the ranch, the adrenaline that had fueled me began to ebb, leaving behind a weariness that spoke of the physical and mental toll the hunt exacted. Yet, there was no turning back. The Mojave, with its vast open spaces and hidden dangers, held the key to the ghoul's eradication. And I, though but a single hunter in the vastness of the desert, was determined to find it. The night stretched on, a canvas upon which the struggle between human and monster would continue to be etched. The desert, indifferent to the fates of those who wandered its sands, offered no solace, only the promise of more challenges to come. The desert night transitioned slowly into the pale hues of dawn, the first light casting long shadows across the Mojave's undulating terrain. This change of guard from night to day offered a brief respite, a momentary peace in the constant vigil against the shadows. Yet for me, the rising sun was a signal to adapt, to employ a different set of tactics in the ongoing hunt for the ghouls that plagued this land. Perched atop the crest of a weathered bluff, The world below sprawled out like a canvas painted with the hues of the Mojave Desert. The sun, a relentless forge in the sky, began its descent, casting elongated shadows that merged with the dusk. This twilight hour, neither fully day nor night, served as the perfect backdrop for what was to come. I lay prone, my body a mere extension of the earth beneath me, as still and silent as the ancient stones that dotted the landscape. The sniper rifle, a precision instrument of lethal grace, was nestled into the crook of my shoulder, an extension of my will. Its matte black surface drank in the dying light, while the scope, my eye into the distance, scanned the horizon for signs of movement. The cool metal against my skin was a constant reminder of the task at hand, a task that required patience, precision, and a deep understanding of the land and its creatures. Beneath the bluff, the ruins of an old mining town lay abandoned to the elements, a ghost of prosperity now serving as a hunting ground for the ghouls that stalked the night. The intel gathered over the past days had led me here, to this moment of anticipation, where strategy and skill would meet the primal ferocity of the undead. The first ghoul emerged from the shadows of a crumbling adobe structure, its movements a disjointed dance between hunger and the lingering vestiges of humanity. Through the scope, the creature was deceptively clear, its grotesque form magnified. Every detail, from the tattered remnants of its clothing to the gnarled claws, rendered with stark clarity. Breathing out slowly, I adjusted my position, aligning the crosshairs with the ghoul's shambling gait. The world narrowed to a single point of focus, the moment stretching thin as time seemed to hold its breath. The shot, when it came, was a whisper. The rifle's recoil a gentle nudge against my shoulder. The ghoul collapsed, a puppet with its strings cut, the bullet finding its mark with clinical precision. It was the first of many. Each shot a sentence passed down, each hit a verdict delivered. The silence of the bluff was punctuated by the soft reports of the rifle. A symphony of death played out against the backdrop of the Mojave night. One by one, the ghouls fell, their numbers dwindling under the unrelenting tide of my assault. The tactics, honed in a different life under different skies, found new purpose here, in the dance of predator and prey. The sniper rifle, a tool of distant judgment, bridged the gap between us, its voice. The final sound these creatures would hear. With the last echoes of gunfire dissipating into the cold desert air, the silent expanse of the Mojave reclaimed its dominion over the night. The ghost town, now a graveyard for the ghouls I had dispatched, lay bathed in the ethereal glow of the moon, its ruins casting elongated shadows that seemed to whisper of ancient secrets and forgotten lives. The night was far from over, though. The elimination of these ghouls, while a necessary act of cleansing, was but a prelude to the true challenge that awaited. Intelligence gathered from prior encounters and the patterns observed in the ghouls' movements suggested their lair was not far. Somewhere, hidden within the vast, unforgiving landscape of the Mojave, was the heart of this darkness, a nexus of evil from which these creatures emanated. Rising from my vantage point, I felt the weight of the desert's gaze upon me, its vastness a reminder of the solitude that cloaked my every step. The sniper rifle, once a harbinger of death from afar, now served as a silent companion as I ventured deeper into the unknown. My path was lit only by the stark, unyielding light of the stars and the moon, each step taken with a deliberate caution born from years of hunting creatures that thrived in the shadow of humanity. The desert at night is a world unto itself, a realm where the line between the natural and the supernatural blurs. Sounds, magnified by the silence, became a tapestry of whispers on the wind. The distant howl of a coyote, the soft rustle of sand displaced by my boots, the beating of my own heart, a rhythm that seemed to sync with the pulse of the desert itself. After hours of meticulous search, guided by the moon's indifferent light, I discovered an anomaly in the landscape. A series of low, undulating hills that concealed the entrance to what appeared to be a vast network of caves. The air here was different, charged with a palpable tension, as if the very earth was holding its breath. Approaching the cave's mouth, the darkness within seemed almost tangible, a void that promised answers and threats in equal measure. This was it, the lair of the ghouls, the source of the malevolence that had seeped into the Mojave like a poison. Pausing at the threshold, I surveyed the entrance, its jagged maw a portal to a world untouched by the sun's grace. The decision to enter was not made lightly. Within those depths lurked not just the ghouls, but perhaps something older, a darkness that predated the names we gave to our fears. With a final glance at the stars above, a silent vow was made. To confront whatever lay within, to trace the evil to its root and sever it. The sniper rifle, secured across my back, was a reminder of the battles fought and won. But the darkness ahead demanded more than just precision from a distance. It required a confrontation, a meeting of wills in the very heart of the enemy's domain. Stepping into the cave, the coolness of the air was a stark contrast to the desert's heat, the silence a cloak that wrapped around me, obscuring my presence as I delved deeper into the earth. The hunt had led me here, to the precipice of the unknown, and as I moved forward, the line between hunter and hunted blurred. Each step a dance with shadows that hungered for more than just the light. The transition from the open, moonlit desert to the suffocating darkness of the cave felt like crossing into another realm. Here, the air was cooler, laden with the musty scent of decay and the weight of centuries. My footsteps, cautious and measured, were the only sounds that dared to break the silence, a tentative challenge to the darkness that enveloped me. As I ventured deeper, the narrow entrance gave way to a wider cavern, its vastness hidden in the blackness beyond my headlamp's reach. The beam of light, a solitary beacon in the oppressive gloom, danced across ancient rock formations, casting long, twisting shadows that seemed to move of their own volition. The psychological warfare waged by the darkness was palpable, each shadow a potential threat, each sound a possible harbinger of attack. The terrain underfoot shifted from smooth, worn paths to a jumble of rocks and debris, evidence of the cave's violent geological history. Every so often, the ground would dip, revealing fissures and pits that threatened to swallow the unwary. These natural traps added an additional layer of danger to the hunt, a constant reminder of the cave's indifference to my presence. Navigating this labyrinth required more than just physical dexterity. It demanded a strategic mind, one capable of reading the environment, of anticipating challenges before they arose. The military training that had honed my body and mind to their peak found new purpose in this underworld. Each decision, each movement executed with tactical precision. The ghouls, I knew, were close. The air grew colder, a sure sign of their proximity, their presence a disturbance in the natural order of this subterranean world. I could feel the tension building, a prelude to the inevitable confrontation. The silence of the cave was a canvas upon which the forthcoming battle would be etched, a silent witness to the violence that would soon unfold. It was then that I heard it, a soft scraping, the sound of stone against stone, so faint it was almost lost in the cave's natural acoustics. I froze, every sense heightened, the sound guiding me to its source. There, in a smaller offshoot of the main cavern, I found them. The ghouls were grotesque parodies of their former selves, their bodies twisted by their hunger, their eyes glowing with a malevolent light. They moved with a jerky, unnatural grace, their attention focused on a point deep within the cave, unaware of my presence. Taking advantage of their distraction, I positioned myself, the cave's natural acoustics guiding my placement. The first shot was critical, a declaration of war against the darkness. The rifle's report shattered the silence, the sound magnified by the cavern's walls, a thunderous proclamation of my intent. The bullet found its mark, the lead ghoul collapsing mid-stride, its body crumpling to the ground with a soft thud. The remaining ghouls turned, their hisses filling the air, a cacophony of rage and hunger. They charged, a wave of desperation and decay, but I was ready. The confined space of the cave became an arena, the air charged with the electricity of battle. Each shot was a calculated strike, the result of years of training and experience. The ghouls, for all their ferocity, were predictably single-minded in their assault, a fact I exploited with ruthless efficiency. As the last of them fell, the cave fell silent once more, the echoes of gunfire fading into a heavy stillness. The air seemed to sigh, the tension dissipating like mist under the sun. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The deeper darkness that lay at the heart of the cave's labyrinth still awaited, a final challenge that promised to test the limits of my resolve. As I ventured deeper into the heart of the cave, the silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of my own steady breathing and the occasional shift of loose stones underfoot. The deeper darkness of the cave's inner sanctum loomed ahead, a void where the last of the ghouls surely waited. Here, in the bowels of the earth, the final confrontation would take place, not through arcane rituals, but through the resolve and skills honed over a lifetime of hunting. The air grew colder, a chill that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the cave. It was a physical manifestation of the malevolence I sought to eradicate. My every sense was heightened, the adrenaline coursing through my veins, sharpening my focus to a razor's edge. The ghouls had no knowledge of my approach, their senses dulled by the darkness they inhabited. This was my advantage, one I intended to exploit fully. As I rounded a bend in the tunnel, the chamber opened up before me. A vast cavern illuminated by fissures in the ceiling through which moonlight faintly glimmered. And there, amidst the shadows, the ghouls moved. A grotesque parody of life, their forms hunched and twisted, their eyes glowing with a hunger for flesh. I took a moment to survey the scene, my experience dictating a tactical assessment of the terrain. The cavern offered little in the way of cover, its floor littered with debris and bones, a testament to the ghouls' savagery. But the uneven terrain could work to my advantage, providing opportunities to channel the ghouls, to control the flow of the battle. With deliberate care, I positioned myself behind a large outcropping of rock, its shadow concealing my presence. From this vantage point, I had a clear line of sight to the ghouls, who remained oblivious to the danger that lurked just beyond their perception. The shot broke the silence like a clap of thunder. The bullet found its mark, one of the ghouls collapsing mid-stride as its companions turned toward the source of the disturbance, their snarls filling the air. They charged, a mass of gnashing teeth and clawed hands. But I was already moving, using the terrain to my advantage, staying one step ahead of their blind fury. The battle, each movement calculated, each shot a coup de grace for the creatures that sought to overwhelm me. The sniper rifle, though powerful, was soon discarded for the more immediate lethality of the handgun, its rapid fire cutting down the ghouls as they advanced. But it was the knife, silver and deadly, that proved to be the most personal weapon in this fight. As the last of the ghouls closed in, I met it head-on, the blade slicing through the air in a silver arc. The ghoul, caught mid-leap, was cleaved in two, its form disintegrating into ash before it could even touch the ground. The fight was over quickly, the silence returning to the cavern, now a grave for the creatures that had once claimed it as their own. Breathing heavily, I surveyed the aftermath, the bodies of the ghouls scattered across the floor, a final testament to the night's work. The return to the surface was a journey marked by reflection, the weight of the night's events heavy upon my shoulders. The ghouls were gone, their threat to the town and the Mojave extinguished by the will and determination of one who refused to stand by in the face of darkness. As I emerged into the cool night air, the first light of dawn painting the horizon in hues of gold and purple, I felt a sense of closure, of peace hard-won through conflict and resolve. The desert lay silent around me, its sands untouched by the bloodshed that had taken place beneath its surface. The road home stretched out before me, a path that led away from the darkness of the cave and back into the light. The battle was won, but the war against the shadows would never truly be over. For as long as creatures like the ghouls existed, there would be a need for those willing to hunt them, to stand as guardians against the night. And so, with the Mojave behind me and the sun rising to greet the new day, I set forth. The memory of the hunt, a reminder of the fragility of peace and the eternal vigilance required to maintain it, The desert faded into the distance, its secrets buried once more beneath the sands, waiting for the next hunter to uncover them. As the first light of dawn pierced the dense canopy of the Pacific Northwest, casting long shadows across the forest floor, I stood on the porch of my cabin, the tranquility of the morning a stark contrast to the chaos of the night before. The ghouls that had haunted the Mojave were no more, their threat extinguished beneath the weight of my resolve and the barrel of my gun. Yet, as the forest awakened around me, I knew the hunt was far from over. Tucked under the edge of my door, I found a note, the paper slightly damp from the morning mist. Unfolding it, the message was succinct, a single word that reignited the ember of anticipation within me. Bigfoot.